Sometimes you just need to get away, cut ties with the inevitable repetition that shapes your reality, put yourself in a new situation where you're not quite sure how you'll perform, what your decisions will be, how you will feel. My summer was filled with projects. 3 years after moving from London to a quiet forest in Sweden, I'm still renovating. I had some long days of building, making storage units, decks, and painting, and I felt so tied down to all of my own plans around this house. So before I continued the work indoors this winter, I needed a moment of experiencing something new, a moment of feeling free. Earlier this summer, I bought a gravel bike and I went on a few shorter outings, but this was going to be my first real bikepacking trip alone. I wasn't quite sure how long I'd be gone, 2 or 3 weeks, and I packed all the things I would take backpacking and a few luxuries. I hoped to use my backpack instead of panniers, but at the very last minute, I just couldn't make it work. These panniers made it to the North Cape in the 70s with my parents, so they would be the perfect companions to explore Sweden. I made small bags that fit around the front fork and my handlebars, and I set off to explore the lower middle region of Sweden before it would get too cold and the snow would fly. I wanted to know what all these places looked like, the ones I'd been staring at on a lifeless map. It became a 1500 kilometer bike ride, but when I left, I didn't know if it would just be a long ride or if it would become something bigger, like a coming of age moment that ultimately changes the direction of your life. Maybe I would find some new potential in the places I saw, or maybe I would find a bear. Okay, off we go. The first days I took my time to ride, to sleep, to get to the places I thought I wanted to go. I saw the first leaves turn yellow and realized autumn was close. I stopped at lakes, took the slow routes, the gravel paths. I took the wrong turns and spent the longer nights in mossy forests. I made hot coffee in the mornings. In all my years of hiking, I have never used a stove before, so I'm going to try it out for the first time now. I just have no idea how to use it. That took a while to turn on. I haven't used instant coffee in so long. Okay, this does look very unattractive. It's okay. It's interesting to drink something warm out here. I was cycling away from home, but I was finding a new one wherever I went. That first morning, after I slept long beyond daybreak, I made a bad coffee and drank it standing up. I pushed my bike back onto the road and I felt such incredible freedom when I rode away. The weeks before, I'd worked so hard to make this trip happen, and now I was here and life was simple. All I needed to do was cycle north. I think I was seeing my first hill in the distance, which I don't usually see here. I like the look of it. I was attacked by these horrible flies last night. They get flat onto your skin and then they go in your hair. They will stay on your skull forever. They're absolutely horrible, so I had to leave really quickly this morning. So I'm at this lake making my coffee, which is not amazing. This road is absolutely exhausting. It just goes up and down and up and down, and there's nothing here. It's just me. I'm currently in Dalarna and it's kind of beautiful here. It's very, I don't know, nature's just a bit more grand. The roads are difficult. There's so many steep hills, so riding is very slow, but yeah, I don't know, it feels different. I'm sweating so much. Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. It's also kind of amazing. This is very cool, this is very wild. Wow. Very wild and very free. When I left it was sunny, but the weather changed. The temperatures dropped and I had my first day of rain. I thought it was time for an update. It's raining. I look like a drowned cat. I was in Mora today, which I thought was a really cute small town, but it turned out to be very different and there was a disaster to get out of. I am wet. I'm about to be wet in a tent in the forest, and I have a piece of string wrapped around my leg to keep my rain trousers from getting stuck in my chains. I remember vividly cycling into the evening and watching Adele walk home. I was wet and I knew that in just a few hours I would have to set up my tent in the rain, and the next morning everything would still be damp and cold. I imagine this girl going to a warm home, changing into a dry set of clothes, and just being surrounded by comfort. And while the rain was dripping down my face, there was nothing inside of me that wanted to trade my situation for hers. I didn't care about the cold and wet because all the discomfort was just fleeting. I'm getting a very slow start because everything is cold and wet. I just got a glimmer of sun. I'm hoping I'll get more of that today. So cold. It's starting to get cold. It's not quite freezing just yet, but it's getting quite close. It's so funny to be in the middle of nowhere and then there's always some house somewhere. Today's kind of an annoying day. I can't avoid this really busy road. Look what I got. I do have my silly hat. It's taken me hours to find a place to have some lunch as well. And it's 3 o'clock. This is quite funny. I actually happened to be passing a house that I looked at when I was searching for properties. And it's right here. You can't see it from the road. It was close to a lake, but it was quite near other properties as well. But it's so funny that my route just happens to take me past. It's a huge country. I temporarily left my life at home behind, but I created a new routine. Every day I woke up, packed up all of my belongings and made a coffee, planned somewhat of a route for the day, and if possible made sure to pass a small village with a supermarket. I was constantly hungry and thirsty, and I'd quickly found out that my water filter barely worked anymore, so I tried to buy as much liquids as I needed, or boiled water from a river or lake if I had no choice. I made several stops every day and sat on rocks, eating sandwiches and picking the last berries. I would start to look out for places to sleep from 6, but sometimes I wouldn't find anything for another hour and a half. For a country where you can pretty much camp anywhere, I often really struggled to find a good spot. Too much undergrowth, too difficult to get the bike somewhere, not enough cover from the roads. But I always found something, and sometimes I stumbled upon a hidden gem. Yesterday was a bit of a struggle. Everything just went wrong. I didn't really love the area I was cycling through and I wanted to get to quickly. But then I took a wrong turn and I pretty much circled back to where I'd come from that morning. So I spent about half an hour going in the wrong direction. I took a wrong turn. The paths here are so difficult and I just really wanted to get out of that area anyways, but turned around, got some lunch, and I found myself with quite an impressive view. That's quite nice. I have to admit, these roads are kind of driving me crazy today. Just a constant, massive gravel up and down. I'm tired. Afternoon sun over the lake. Lots of hills and gravel. I ended up in this gravel that was so thick I had to walk. And then at the end of the day I couldn't find a place to camp. All the undergrowth here is really thick, blueberry bushes, or it's swampy. It's funny for a country where you can basically set up anywhere. I have been struggling to find sleeping spots where I can be hidden from view. So I set up my tent at the only place I could find, which is right behind a really busy roads. What is it, the E45, the Europe way? It's right there. But this is like some old unused little roads, forest roads. The trees are just thick enough for no one to be able to see me. This water is from the river. Isn't it funny, the road is right there. Okay, I'm going towards Norway today. So it'll take a day and a half, I think, to get there. And then I'm going to loop down. So this is my first time having hot things on the road. In all my years of hiking, I have never made a hot meal outside. I'm curious to find out if it's worth the effort. That's not so bad. I have to say, I do like being able to make a coffee while I'm packing up in the morning because I don't waste time, and then I've got a coffee before I leave, and that is quite nice because otherwise I make cold drinks and they're not that good. But in the evenings, I mean, it is nice, but I mean, I do like it. It's nice to have something warm, but it's not really changing my world. So this is the busy road. That's where I camped last night. Really gorgeous here. This road is also really amazing if you're only aiming to go about 10 kilometers per hour because that's how difficult the gravel is. Isn't a place like this absolutely magical? Heading west, fast road, which would be fast if the wind wasn't going in the opposite direction. One of the things I actually was hoping to find on this trip is a mountain that actually reaches above tree line, and I think I found it. I mean, unless it's been logged, but I don't think it has been. I was hoping to go to this waterfall, but unfortunately it doesn't seem as though I can get anywhere close on my bike, and there's also this big detour, so I'm just going to keep on going. It's also raining, so it's not it's not the most beautiful day to go to a waterfall, but I'm so excited to be here, be somewhere different. Too bad it's raining. Wow, the weather seems to be clearing up just as I'm passing. This was actually a really exciting moment because I wasn't quite sure I was going to find this during this trip. I've been wanting to see more than just forest, which a lot of Sweden is. You need to go quite far north to see anything else, and one of my secret hopes was to find something different, and here it was. As I was cycling west, I had this idea of going to this waterfall in Fullfjället, but as I got close, I realized the final stage would need to be walked, and I wouldn't be able to leave my bike, so I kept on riding, and this is where I headed south. Norway is just up there, but they don't even care to put it on the sign. Last night I pushed my poor little bike through the forest to find a place to sleep, and when I finally got somewhere, I saw all of these giant poos and they really looked like bear scats. So I was too afraid to camp there anymore, and I was close to a village, so for a change, instead of camping away from people, I decided to camp closer to people. And I found this weird little patch of forest where I set up my tent. Everything was wet and quite dreary looking, and there was just this howling of dogs. And I just started to think about wolves and why they would be howling for hours on end. And it turned out I was near a place that organizes dog sledding during winter. Oh, the sun just came back. I have an amazing view now though. I unexpectedly came past another little supermarket, so I got to buy more food again. This is a very pretty place, and I wasn't even really planning on going here. I thought the detour wasn't going to be worth it today. Wow, I wasn't actually expecting this. So today's going to be interesting. My power bank is depleted and my phone is down to about 20%, and I need to charge somewhere, but I'm in the middle of nowhere. I am planning on cycling 80 kilometers down to a campsite which I hope is open. The problem is the roads to get there. It's really easy to take the wrong ones because they're all country roads, they're not marked, they all look the same. I drew myself a little map, you know, I'm really hoping it's going to be quite straightforward, but anything could happen. Anything could happen. I guess I'll be able to turn on my phone a few times today and check. Annoyingly, last night I had just on the 50% charge, but overnight, even though I turned it off, it lost about 25% because of the cold. If I'd thought about it, I would have put it in my quilt, but I forgot. This is the real adventure. Good morning. Suits the mood. It just doesn't stop going on here. This area is very hilly. Exciting news, I made it to the campsite. Less exciting news, campsite is closed. So now I need to find somewhere else. I made it here last night. I can't tell you how relieved I was to find a place. I'm at this campsite. It's actually really nice. I have electricity, so I charged all of my devices last night. I had to cycle another 23 kilometers. That campsite I wanted to go to wasn't just closed, it was for sale. So when I got here, I was so relieved. I had a place. The only thing I wasn't able to do was wash some of my clothes, which I was hoping to do. But I took about a 30-minute shower. That was quite good. So I'm going into Torsby today, and I am just going to roam around. Oh, look at these spider webs. I'm sure they weren't here last night. I kind of disappeared after Torsby. Whenever I go into a little town, like a slightly bigger one, I think it's going to be quite exciting because I don't usually find myself in towns, and I think they're going to be all traditional and cute, but they're usually just a bit boring. I did find myself in a bakery, which I don't usually do either, and I got some cakes and a coffee, so that was fun. But after that, the day sort of was a bit bland. The roads were quite busy, the forests were just quite average forests. When I finally got off a busy road onto a gravel road, I just had the steepest, never-ending incline. It was a 10% incline, but it just kept on going. Now I'm actually all the way at Arvika, which is another town. I have low expectations this time. And then I'm going to continue going south. I'm going to end my trip in a place called Ed. I don't think there's anything in Ed. There's probably 5 people and a sign that says Ed. I've been seeing Ed on the map for years now, and I love it just because it's called Ed. There's a place that's just called Ed. That's going to be my unofficial end of my trip. Yeah, but we have a little while to go before we're there, so. Look at this lake. I am so happy to be off those busy roads. There's definitely less smaller roads down here to take. feel like these days I just mostly sit next to the road eating. I'm a bottomless pit. I think I have hiker hunger. I could just keep on eating and just eat. This is really good. My current favorite is ham, cheese, and cucumber salad. I seem to have hit the area with all the rocks though, which is cute. I hope I'm going to end up on a quieter road, but the roads here are not ideal. It's definitely a much busier area than where I've been before. Look at that house on top of the rocks. That's amazing. I'm moving from one cycle route to another. I'm going to a ferry. You know, the best thing about a trip like this is you get up in the mornings in a tent and you pack up, put everything on your bike, and the first real thing you get to do that day is cycle away. You're on the road and you just cycle away, and you really have the freedom to go in any direction, and that's what you do, and it's kind of amazing. A long trip kind of puts you on the edge of society. You're sort of not really part of it, which I personally really like, because I think maybe I sort of feel like an outsider anyways. Not in a bad way, but in a way that actually gives me a lot of freedom, and that makes me feel very confident about doing things that other people don't do. Some people that go on a long hiking or cycling trip for the first time feel such immense freedom that they really struggle when they come back into normal life. And I think it's because they never felt like they had the option to make their own choices, really. There were so many expectations placed on them, and they never really realized that they had other options. Maybe everybody needs to go on a trip like this in their life. I made it to Ed. I'm in Ed. Look at that! I'm in Ed. It's actually called Ed. I mean, it says Dolls Ed. That's a bit disappointing. It said Ed on the sides. Let's find something that says Ed. I'm in Ed. This is Ed. It's a little town, just like any other town, and I'm here. So this is sort of my end point. I mean, I still need to get home. We're not done yet, but I explored the areas that I wanted to explore. That's pretty cool. Leaving Ed. I had reached the place where I wanted this to end, but I still needed to go home. I took the quietest of the fast roads and found the landscape getting more and more familiar, a pastel haze in the sky, the turns I've chosen before. I was rushing to get home before the autumn rain would start. I didn't want the trip to end, but I'd seen what I'd set out to see. I don't know if this trip changed the direction of my life, but in the few weeks I was gone, I experienced so many new things that I didn't know before I left. I know what it feels like to get up in the morning and drink a hot coffee in the middle of a forest. I know what it's like to feel the thick gravel under my tires slip away from me. I know what it's like to pass my first mountain in the rain. I know what the towns look like that used to be trivial names on a map. Maybe these are all inconsequential moments, but maybe they're everything in life. And all I needed to do was go.